touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't here for my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of Eric Malcolm.
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Now, with that all being said, let's see who all is in here. Okay, Charlene, Miss AP Prayers. All right, let's get into it. Reggie, Nessie X. All right. Everybody be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. 504 NOLA is in the virtual building. Okay, shout out to all my loyal royals. I see you, Desmond. Shout out to all of my loyal royals and my moderators who put in work. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. I see you, G from the land, beloved. Let's have a brief word from our sponsor, and then we'll get right into it.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so let's get into it, because here's the thing. Come to find out, Trump and his nefarious administration, they have been trying to deport witnesses who claim to have seen, what happened in the ICE investigations. Now, once a federal judge blocked him from deporting these people, well, guess what he did? He comes back and changes his narrative. Okay, now the DOJ has a whole new story. Now, remember how they were talking about Renee Good and Alex Preddy were domestic terrorists and they put the officers or the agents' lives in danger? Now they admit to all of that being a whole lie. Okay, and the ICE agents pretty much threw Kristi Noem under the bus. Okay, so let's get into it. And like I said, the only reason they've had this change of heart, okay, is because they were not able to deport those witnesses. Okay, it's so attributable to Todd Lyons. It says, today a joint review by ICE and Department of Justice, DOJ, of video evidence has revealed that sworn testimony provided by two separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements. Now I want you all to pay attention. So now they're admitting that the ICE agents lied. Okay, but they were so quick to take their word and paint this whole narrative in the beginning. Both officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation. Lying under oath is a serious federal offense. The U.S. Attorney's Office is actively investigating these false statements. Upon conclusion of the investigation, the officers may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. The men and women of ICE are trusted or entrusted with upholding the rule of law and are held to the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and ethical conduct. Violations of this sacred sworn oath will not be tolerated. ICE remains fully committed to transparency, accountability, and the fair enforcement of our nation's immigration laws. Lies, all lies. All lies and BS, because at the end of the day, why were they trying to deport witnesses? And this was another case as well where they did the same thing. DHS seeking to deport two men who said fellow ICE detainee was killed. Okay, the two men's accounts of January 3rd death of Geraldo Lunas Campos at a Texas detention camp differ from the Department of Homeland Security's account of the incident. So this is what they have been doing all along, trying to get rid of witnesses. So ICE faces no culpability. But like I said, in this case, in the cases of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the judge would not allow them to do it. Okay, because that's against the law anyway. You're not supposed to deport a material witness. That's what you're not supposed to do. Okay, now, so they say, now this is what Fox News initially reported on January the 15th. An ICE officer is fighting for his life after he was allegedly ambushed with a shovel and a broom handle by three illegal immigrants during a traffic stop that quickly spiraled into a foot chase, a violent struggle, and gunfire. Do you hear how they make it sound so salacious and just so, desperate, and that the ICE agent is clinging on to life? And it was all lies and BS. Breaking. DOJ moves to drop criminal charges in alleged shovel broom attack in Minneapolis that led ICE to open fire. Newly discovered evidence in this matter is materially inconsistent with the allegations in the complete affidavit, according to prosecutors. Now, move to dismiss the versus two deaths. Now, looks like third suspect was never charged. Okay, now, Ron Filipkowski says, will Fox be updating their story on this and giving it the same amount of airtime as they did the initial arrest? Well, of course they won't, because they were lying and painting a narrative. Okay? That's what they were doing. ICE Director Todd Lyons says the two officers involved in the January 14th chase shooting incident appear to have lied under oath and are being investigated by the DOJ. This comes after DHS Secretary Kristi Noem defended them as firing in self-defense. So her lies are exposed and they just threw her behind under the bus, as I knew they would. Okay, didn't I tell you all that these dumb women with Trump's administration don't even realize, Pam Bondi, Lindsay Halligan, that they're going to be the ones that take the heat? Who's in prison right now for the Epstein files besides a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell? The men all got away. Even Jeffrey Epstein got away because he's not dead. Okay, he's likely over in Israel somewhere. Please pay attention. Now, Ron Filipkowski also said, this is what Kristi Noem said when this incident happened. What we saw last night in Minneapolis was an attempted murder of federal law enforcement. Yeah, that's absolutely the lie that she told. Okay, that is the lie that she told. All right, and so these people are just a whole mess. This is what they are. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this report, because now they're claiming that all of the files have actually been released. And let's not forget how yesterday they came out with that fake list, okay, with crazy names on it that made no darn sense. Okay, let's go to the clip. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
We begin with the latest developments surrounding the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In a letter to Congress on Saturday, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the Justice Department has released all of those files, claiming it had fulfilled its obligations under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That's a little bit up for debate. The letter also outlined its justification for the redactions made in the released files, explaining they were limited to victim privacy, including personally identifiable information and medical details. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who led the charge to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act, along with Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, was asked yesterday about this new reasoning from DOJ. Watch.
Yesterday, the DOJ sent Congress a letter explaining the reason for all these reactions. So you are not satisfied with that?
No, they're citing deliberative process privilege in order not to release some of the documents. The problem with that is the bill that Ro Khanna and I wrote says that they must release internal memos and notes and emails about their decisions on whether to prosecute or not prosecute, whether to investigate or not investigate.
Do you still have confidence in Pam Bondi as Attorney General?
I don't think Pam Bondi has confidence in Pam Bondi. She wasn't confident enough to engage in anything but name calling in a hearing. And so, no, I don't have confidence in her.
I'm not really sure he ever did, but that's also beside the point. Bondi's letter to Congress also included a list of more than 300, quote, politically exposed people whose names appear in the files in a variety of contexts. They include Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and other politicians, business people, and artists. I mean, Eugene, when I look at this, this is the letter that we've been waiting for from the Attorney General. It is weeks and weeks late, but then again, so is the full release of the Epstein files, because even as they say that they're being fully transparent, there are members of Congress looking at the files, literally saying, I see things that are missing. I still want more information about X, Y, or Z. But now the DOJ is basically saying, too bad. I mean, what happens next?
They're saying they're done at the end of the day, right? That we have fulfilled our obligation. The problem is they weren't on time. They were very late, and they don't seem to have fulfilled the obligation of the law. When I talked to a bunch of Congress folks, I know you did too, just about like this idea of client-attorney privilege, right? They say that, there's certain things that are redacted because of client-attorney privilege. Who's the client and who's the attorney? That also wasn't a reason why they could redact.
Yeah, in the literal law.
And some of the redactions that they've done, they kind of explained why, but they were supposed to, according to lawmakers who wrote the law, explain each redaction, right? Maybe that's coming soon at some point, but with Pam Bondi saying, finito, that we have fulfilled our obligation with this list of 300 folks. Beyonce's on there. There's, Marilyn Monroe is on there. There's a bunch of dead people on there. Elvis, people whose names were in tweets that got picked up and they threw it on this list, kind of a poking their eye at Congress, as she did this week.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting here and concerning is that both the White House, the DOJ, have not really focused on the victims, right? They have not taken that aspect of it seriously. We have talked to a lot of survivors on our show. I know you guys have as well. And every time they have felt that this DOJ, this administration, and administrations past have never done them right. They have always ignored them. They have put them to the side, and that is only going to continue. What happens next is more of this, I think. More members of Congress begging for more information and not getting it.
And this is also why I think it's so important that we've seen these parallel tracks, right? Yes, Congress is the initial genesis of this law that pushed for compulsion of transparency here. But that's just one side of this equation. The other side is that the House Oversight Committee is still doing their investigations. It's not moving as quickly as some people might like. There are questions about partisanship on the part of the Republican majority, who they're subpoenaing, why they're not rushing to subpoena, for example, key members of the administration like Howard Lutnick, who are mentioned in the files, who had some kind of a relationship with Epstein. Nothing to say of the president himself. That's even a bigger fish that they will have to at some point figure out how they square, getting Bill Clinton but not Donald Trump. I digress. These are all questions I ask James Comer on a pretty regular basis. But now does this tilt the focus to, okay, if DOJ is actually done, do you now have to just rely on the committee and the slow plotting work that they're doing?
They have to rely on the committee, and more important, they're going to have to rely on Democrats on the committee kind of being sly and sometimes tricking their Republican counterparts to do things. And frankly, at the end of the day, they might have to wait when Democrats actually have the gavel. If that happens at the end of 2026, if they flip the House, then 2027 is going to look a lot different.
Okay, so with that all been said, they're trying to say that they have released everything. which we know is absolutely BS, okay? Because previously, when they released these 3 million files, they said there were like over 3 million more. Okay, and I'm telling you that the files that they're hiding are the ones that talk about their affinity for eating Black children. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's get into it because there is a doctor, a very popular doctor named Peter Attia, who was in those files a myriad of times. Okay, this is him right here. Let's get into it. And he was supposed to be fired from CBS, but now they've decided they're going to keep him on. CBS has pulled a 60-minute segment featuring longevity researcher and recently named CBS News contributor Peter Attia from a repeat of the news magazine. Now, the decision comes a few days after the latest release of documents related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein included a host of correspondences between Attia and Epstein. Now, the 60 Minutes piece first aired in October, well before CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss explained or announced Attia would be among a slate of news contributors to the division. It was set to be part of a rerun airing opposite the Super Bowl on Sunday, but in the wake of the newest Epstein files release from the Department of Justice, CBS News will replace it with another piece. Okay, now with that all being said, this man was mentioned in there at least 1,700 times. Okay, at least 1,700 times. Now, with that all being said, let's go to his response. What he had to say about all of this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. And they're sitting here talking about they're not going to conduct any investigation.
Sent me an internal email from Peter Attia to his staff. I haven't verified this at all, so you just have to work with me. This is crisis response in real time. I will say I was just getting ready to sit down to do a post about the lack of response from Peter Attia, but here we have allegedly this email to his staff. Now, let's just look at this for good and bad, like good column, bad column. Right away, good column, in the middle of a crisis. One of the first stakeholders you need to reach out to are your internals, your staff. So this, all signs point to him doing the right thing in one place. But let's start reading this. You put your trust, your credibility, and your hard work into what we have built together, and I take that responsibility seriously. Okay, we got some greasing the skids here. We're not getting to the meat of it yet. You deserve a complete and honest account of what did and did not happen. I apologize that I did not get this out sooner, but I wanted to be thorough. Okay, right away. That's not accurate. You know that's not the reason why I didn't get a hold of people. It's because he wanted to suss out the damage first, because this is damage.
Matter that should never be treated casually.
Okay, sorry about that, beloveds. I was sending another receipt to my email because I want you all to see what this man, Peter Attia, what he was saying in those emails to Epstein. Okay, here we go.
Talk about emails or names or excuses. I want to talk to survivors. If you were abused as a child and learned that powerful adults joked, minimized, or stayed silent about people who hurt kids, I need you to hear this. You are seen. You matter. This should never be treated casually. I'm a pediatric specialist, and my job is to protect children and advocate for people who were harmed when adults failed them. There are documented emails showing Dr. Peter Attia communicating casually with Jeffrey Epstein, a man who abused and trafficked children. This isn't about rumors. This isn't about internet outrage. This is about judgment.
Now listen, this is what one of his emails says. And this was sent December 4th of 2018. So well after Epstein had been charged and convicted in 2008. It says, you the biggest problem with becoming friends with you, and I think he left out the word no, because that's what I think he was supposed to say. You know, the biggest problem with becoming friends with you, the life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul. Okay, that's what he said. I can't tell a soul. And then it says, got a fresh shipment. Okay, please tell you found that picture online, bastard. Okay, so now when he's talking about a fresh shipment, I think they're talking about that beef jerky. But let's continue.
Responsibility and accountability. When the topic is to harm children, there's no place for jokes, no place for coded language, no place for silence. And right now, the silence matters. These topics demand seriousness. They deserve transparency. And they deserve adults, especially physicians and public figures, who will clearly say this was wrong. Advocacy means we don't look away, means we don't minimize harm, and it means we speak up even when it's uncomfortable. To survivors watching this, you are not invisible. We will keep advocating because protecting children and honoring survivors is not.
Okay, so that all being said, listen. He had some SEXual comments in there. He said something about PUSSY is low calorie or something like that. He was saying, and then him talking about that he can't mention it to anybody. Well, clearly they were doing something nefarious. And like I said, he was mentioned at least 1,700 times. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this article up. So 2 weeks after trove of files revealed extensive and inappropriate communications between Jeffrey Epstein and a recently named CBS News contributor, the longevity expert Peter Attia, the network appears to have settled on keeping him. Okay, everyone internally unofficially concluded he was staying as of about a week ago. Okay, officially, CBS News has been silent about Attia and declined to comment when asked on Friday. Now, Attia, I don't know if his name's Attia or Attia. I'm just going to call him Attia because that's what it looks like to me. Now, Attia is one of the 19 on-air contributors that editor-in-chief Barry Weiss said that she was so excited to announce during an all-staff meeting on January the 27th, saying that we're pissed off about it. A second CBS News staffer who was also not authorized to comment. Now, a search of Attia's name in the Justice Department's database returns 1,838 results. Okay, one of them says, I go into JE withdrawal when I don't see him. This is what he wrote January of 2016. A year earlier, in an exchange with Epstein, Attia seemed to hint at his knowledge of Epstein's misdeeds, though he has denied that he was referring to criminal SEXual activity. When he said, you know, the biggest problem with becoming friends with you, the life you lead is so outrageous, yet I can't tell a soul. And then in one particularly lewd 2016 email, Attia wrote to Epstein saying, PUSSY is indeed low carb. Still awaiting results on gluten content, though. Okay, so that all being said, he goes on to say that my interactions with Epstein had nothing to do with his SEXual abuse or exploitation of anyone. I was never on his plane, never on his island, and never present at any of his SEX parties. That said, I apologize and regret putting myself in a position where emails, some of them embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible, are now public, and that is on me. Okay? Full of crap. Okay? Full of crap. Now, let's talk about this dude right here. Because this is, his name is Earl Anthony Wayne. Okay, now I find some of the things about him, they say he impregnated, in the files, it says he impregnated an 11-year-old child. Now, of course, these are allegations, but you mean to tell me the DOJ doesn't find a need to investigate any of these things, any of these claims? Who is Earl Anthony Wayne? ex-U.S. ambassador to Mexico, accused of R-wording 11-year-old girl in Epstein files. Now, freshly released Epstein files contain unverified allegations linking former U.S. ambassador Earl Anthony Wayne to child sex trafficking based solely on claims made by a man named Kenneth Darrell Turner. Now, here's the thing. I want you to pay attention to how they try to discount, okay, the accusations. They say made solely, as if, okay, just one person made the accusations. But at the end of the day, shouldn't they still be investigating it? If people are making allegations, isn't that what they did in Diddy's case? Isn't that what they did in R. Kelly's case and Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson? When these people made allegations, weren't all of the allegations in fact investigated? But why do they not want to investigate these white men? Okay, I want you to pay attention. Now, the continued release of nearly 3 million pages from the Epstein files has brought forward disturbing and unverified allegations against Earl Anthony Wayne, the former U.S. ambassador to Mexico. In 2 separate data sets, a man named Kenneth Darrell Turner has linked Wayne and former Navy SEAL commander Richard Marcinko to Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking network. Okay, so in one of the files, Turner alleges that Wayne was sentenced in Mexico in 2017 to life imprisonment for impregnating an 11-year-old girl, claiming that DNA evidence showed a 100% match to Wayne. Turner further alleges that Wayne avoided serving the sentence by allowing a former U.S. Marine to serve time in his place, calling it an arrangement facilitated by the U.S. State Department and a Mexican judge following a huge payoff. According to Turner, Wayne currently has an outstanding arrest warrant in Mexico for avoiding sentencing. Now, this is all alleged. So the Epstein files mention various high-profile individuals, including former presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and celebrities like Kevin Spacey and Naomi Campbell. These connections often raise questions about the extent of Epstein's influence and the potential involvement of these individuals in his activities. However, being named in the files does not imply guilt. The released documents detail numerous interactions but lack direct accusations against many mentioned. Well, there's direct accusations against Trump and many other people that's mentioned. Okay, they need to stop it. So in a separate document, in FBI intake form, Turner states that in July or August of 2018, he contacted the FBI and provided information that he gathered between 2000 and 2017 regarding alleged sex trafficking involving minors, naming Richard Marcinko and Earl Anthony Wayne. Now, Turner also claims that in April or May of 2014, the American embassy in Mexico was raided by Mexican federal police with 107 American citizens, including employees and contractors, allegedly present, and among them was Wayne. Turner says Wayne left Mexico immediately afterward and was later tried in absentia in 2015. And that means he was tried in his absence. Though he was not there to appear in court, they still tried him and conducted the trial anyway. Okay. Additionally, Turner alleges that Jeffrey Epstein visited the U.S. Embassy in Mexico and that sex tapes and videos involving Epstein were found in Marcinko's possession. Turner claims that when he attempted to verify his information, U.S. Embassy staff refused to acknowledge or confirm any of his claims. See, this is what they do. They don't want to confirm the claims because then they cannot tell us it's unverified claims. So they want to say that, they want to be able to say unverified just to make it look like there's no proof of any of this, and therefore there's no need for them to conduct any sort of investigation. Okay, I want you all to pay attention, but there are absolutely witnesses that are still alive, so why aren't they talking to them? In many cases, they have already talked to witnesses and have those statements and all of that, and the witnesses have come out and said that this is not the last of those files, that they are lying. Now, there is no public evidence, verified court record, or reporting from major news organizations confirming that Earl Anthony Wayne R-worded an 11-year-old girl or is formally accused of such crimes in the Epstein files. Earl Anthony Wayne is a retired American diplomat who served as U.S. ambassador to Mexico from 2011 to 2015, and previously as U.S. ambassador to Argentina from 2006 to 2009. He reached the highest rank in the U.S. Foreign Service, career ambassador, and currently serves as a distinguished diplomat in residence at American University School of International Medicine. Okay, so this man still has a very high profile position. There is no publicly available information on Kenneth Darrell Turner beyond his appearance in the Epstein files. As of now, Wayne has not publicly commented on the allegations attributed to him in the released documents. Okay, so why wouldn't he respond? Either to say that he didn't do it, to clear up his name, the allegations, or anything. He didn't say a word. Okay, so now I don't know if these allegations are true, but what I do know is that his name is in there, and they say that he supposedly, allegedly, okay, impregnated an 11-year-old. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, Trump insider Tom Barrack kept in regular contact with Jeffrey Epstein for years, according to the files. Now, these people are, listen, I want you to pay attention to how many of these people are always seemingly attached to Donald Trump. President Trump's longtime confidant, Thomas Barrack, or Barack, it's spelled Barrack, I think it's Barack, now serving as U.S. ambassador to Turkey and special envoy to Syria, was in regular close contact with Jeffrey Epstein for years. Okay, this is even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor. Okay, a CBS News analysis of over 100 text and email exchanges from the newly released Justice Department documents shows this. Now, the correspondence places Barack, a globe-trotting billionaire, among a circle of wealthy and influential figures who maintained social contact with Epstein even as his criminal history became widely known. The relationship continued even after Barack became a prolific fundraiser for Mr. Trump's 2016 campaign and later led his inaugural committee and became a frequent presence in the White House. Okay, are y'all paying attention? All of these devils have high-ranking positions. Okay? All of them. Now, before we get into what a couple of witnesses have to say, because I'm gonna play that, but we're gonna first talk about Zorro Ranch. We're gonna talk about Zorro Ranch. Now, this is a property that Epstein owned, and one of the Jane Does has alleged that people were tortured there. Okay, that this was used as a torture place for many victims. Okay, so now let's talk about Zorro Ranch. First of all, Zorro Ranch was owned by a trust, and the trust was called Zorro Trust, and it was owned since 1993 and then sold in 2023. Now, here's the thing. You know, people put things in a trust rather than in their own names to hide the fact that they are the person who owns it. Okay? Now, like I said, Jane Doe alleges that there was sexual abuse and sexual torture there. Basically, SRA, which is known as satanic ritual abuse, which I've told you all about before, and that it was a site for sex trafficking, and that this is the place, according to the New York Times article, this is the place where Jeffrey Epstein wanted to seed the human race with his DNA. Now, I want you all to think about that. He wanted to impregnate these little girls and to have his DNA. Okay? Hold on just a second. Hold on, beloveds. I'm trying to pull up something. Now, here's the thing. So basically, he wanted to impregnate multiple girls, okay, creating many biological descendants. And as I told you, that's reminiscent of that movie called Boys of Brazil, where they put Hitler's DNA in like 13 subjects, okay, passing on his genetics intentionally, okay, sometimes framed in pseudoscientific or eugenic language, okay. This idea fits with the fact that he wanted to populate the world with his DNA, believing his intelligence or traits were uniquely valuable. I mean, it's the arrogance of it all for me. So the DNA seeding concept surfaced in investigative journalism, testimony from acquaintances, and even some alleged victims. Reports that Epstein discussed cryopreservation and artificial insemination and selective breeding, mostly in selective or boastful terms. And let's not forget that one of the doctors I told you about, it was Dr. Trivers, if I'm not mistaken, Robert Trivers, was also someone who dealt in socioeconomic behavior, and then also natural selection. Okay, he did a thesis on that. So most experts and investigators interpret Epstein's DNA seeding talk as grandiose narcissism, eugenic style thinking, and a desire for control that extended beyond his own life. Psychological manipulation meant to impress, intimidate, and or unsettle others. Okay, and they also said that he was cloning people allegedly. Okay. So anyway, I find it all interesting. I find it all interesting that this is what he was out there trying to do. Just sick and disgusting. Can you imagine a bunch of nefarious devils roaming around the streets? Okay, a bunch of Epsteins. Now, but here's the thing I thought was interesting. So a Texas businessman running for office is now the owner of Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch. And then I had to ask myself, why would this man want to purchase that ranch after all the nefarious things that have come out and been exposed about Epstein and his minions? And also, it's been alleged that this was a torture ground, okay, for victims. This is him right here. His name is Don Huffines, or Huffins, Huffines. This is the owner right here, and he's running for office, okay? Please pay attention. So I just thought that was a bit interesting. This stuff is still going on. Now, the family of Texas businessman and politician Donald Huffines owns the late Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in southern Santa Fe County, which was purchased in 2023 by a limited liability company created just a month before the purchase. Huffines, a former GOP state senator from Dallas, is now running a high-profile campaign for comptroller, a statewide office in Texas overseeing state financial matters. Okay, now here's another thing too. The fact that this ranch was so close in proximity to Mexico, this made it a very good place for them to be trafficking, okay, and doing all sorts of things to people, okay, to these children. Let's look at some of the pictures of it. And it was 7,500 to about 10,000 square feet. Okay, about 7,500 to about 10,000 square feet. Okay, so like I said, clearly alleged to have been used as a torture chamber. Okay, now let's continue. Now, I also want to tell you all about something that I thought was very interesting. So I found this company. Hold on, let me get to that in a second. Hold on a second. Let me go to this video about Zorro Ranch. Here we go.
Need to spend more time investigating Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico because look at what I just found. This email was sent by someone who says he was former staff at the Zorro. He writes, "Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G." Madam G is, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's right hand. Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. And then in the second half of the email, he's sending links to videos that we obviously don't have access to. The titles are so disturbing. Sex video with minor, threesomes, underage girl R fantasy. And then this last one that's 15 minutes and 19 seconds, girl from Bay Area suicide attempt confession to Madam G audio. And it just seems like this massive, clearly isolated ranch can hold the key to a lot of answers. If you haven't heard of it yet, it's this huge property located 40 miles south of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it's been described as a little village because of how huge it is. There's a 3-story mansion, an off-the-grid cabin, a firehouse, an airport hangar, a helipad. Epstein actually bought it from the former governor of New Mexico. And there have been other really concerning complaints coming out of this ranch. Here's another tip that was sent to the FBI from an unknown girl. Stated in early 1982, Epstein and Maxwell were flying a jet out of Las Vegas, taking girls and going to New Mexico. said it was a fuck fest on the plane. And then if you go further down, this is really disturbing. In 1982, stated there was a blue and white building. A child's body was buried under the building, and it's a mausoleum or a small building in New Mexico. The Epstein file drop also showed tons of photos like this, just redacted images of potentially nude girls or women labeled Zorro. So as you can see, there's just so much coming out of this place for it to go uninvestigated. The good news is that New Mexico lawmakers are launching a truth commission to basically investigate this ranch and Epstein's activities here. So maybe we'll get some answers. I came across these files at midnight last night, so we will continue to go through this Epstein library and report.
Now, let me tell you all something. Here's the thing. Now, this ranch is in Santa Fe County in the town of Stanley, okay, in New Mexico. So back in, I believe it was 2020, the local district attorney actually wanted to investigate that ranch, wanted to go out there and, start digging and looking for stuff. They wanted to do a full-on investigation. But guess what? The United States FBI told them not to bother it. Don't go out there messing around with that ranch. We've got this under control. We're going to look into it. And guess what? They never did. They never did. Okay? Never did. Okay, so please pay attention. And now they want us to sit up here and think that all the files have been released and there's nothing to see here, folks.
News this evening, the Department of Justice is actively flooding the zone this evening, and everyone needs to know about it. They're doing it so you stop focusing on those who committed crimes associated with Jeffrey Epstein, or those who were really closely associated with Epstein. So as you know, I reported on this letter the DOJ released with a list of, quote, politically exposed persons on it. But they did this to distract you. Why? Because they have names like Janis Joplin on it. Janis Joplin died when Jeffrey Epstein was 17 years old. They have names like Elvis Presley on there. And then at the same time, they have people connected to Jeffrey Epstein like the president, Donald Trump. But the letter doesn't distinguish those names from one another. Just list them all as though they were all somehow connected to Epstein. And at the same time, one survivor tells me this evening that, nope, not all of the names are on there. There's some names missing, essentially. This is all part of the plan. And I need your help to spread the word.
Okay, flat out lying. Flat out lying. And that's the same thing I said to you all. Okay, in the video I did yesterday, the TikTok I did, they just don't. And I told you all even days ago, last week sometime, that they don't want us to believe in this stuff. Okay, they're muddying the waters. That's what the devils are doing.
So I'm on
I
New York,
cannot stop
and you might have seen me
thinking
online
about
this week making
this.
this face before I lost it on Scott Jennings for minimizing the
Mind you, the
horrendous and
date.
sickening crimes in the Epstein files. But I wanted to show you the moment that came right before, the moment that got my face like this.
Right, today marks 1 month since the Justice Department was required by law to release all of the Epstein files. So far, it's released less than 1%. The law, Scott says, that the Justice Department shall release all the Epstein files, not can if it wants to or gets around to it.
Yeah, what's the punishment if they don't?
That's a great point. I mean, that's a problem.
There is none.
Did you hear it? Did you see? The administration is breaking the law, hiding the evidence of probably the most far-reaching child sex trafficking operation in history. And the MAGA position, which is what Scott represents, is so what? What are you going to do if we break the law and run cover for pedophiles and rapists and murderers? Nothing. Play it again.
Yeah, what's the punishment if they don't?
That's a great point. I mean, that's a problem.
There is none.
Did you see this?
Now, that was Scott Besson. He's very arrogant with his ignorant self. He knows they're not going to get any darn consequences. So they're just doing whatever the hell they want. Clearly withholding evidence.
I don't know if you noticed on Trump's best friend's island, they removed children's teeth. Little kids' teeth so they couldn't bite. We're underreacting. Let's fucking go. Maggots. So I don't know if you noticed.
Did you hear that? They removed those poor children's teeth. And why do you think they removed their teeth? So they couldn't bite them. Okay, let's not forget that there was a story in an email that said that Donald Trump was bitten by a 13-year-old and then she was punched in the face. Okay? When she was down on bended knee with a cucumber. Okay, please pay attention. Hold on, beloveds.
lights shining down. In the moonlight, girl, can't help but feel this connection flow with every move. Too long floor where you smile. Makes me want more. Heartbeat and sing. At the sound of soul, tonight we dance. Just lose control. I can't resist. The way you move is in bliss. Your power is easy. The stars are gold. This night is ours.
Okay, my apologies, honey. That was some Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, they left me a watchtower. Okay, some kind of pamphlet. Who really controls the world? All right, I'll read it later. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. So, FBI did an interview with a victim who accused Trump, logged it one day before Epstein died. Let's get into it. And then we're going to go to some of the witness footage.
Major development right now. The FBI did interview a credible accuser of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, according to new reporting from Roger Sollenberger, completely undermining Pam Bondi's testimony on Capitol Hill, and completely undermining any claims from Republicans that there was no accusations of wrongdoing on Trump's part. Let's break down Sollenberger's report because it's stunning. So remember this accusation, the first one. I'm not going to read it to you because it is graphic, but it came from an FBI report that we had circulated in the past. We had found, well, Sollenberger found an FBI 302 form, a write-up suggesting that an interview with an Epstein victim and her lawyer was conducted on July 24th, 2019. It was entered into the FBI's case files one day before Epstein was found dead in his jail cell on August 9th. Here's the top of the FBI 302 form. See, dated August 9, 2019. And Sollenberger found that the biographical details matched the initial tip, which notes a criminal history in South Carolina of the victim. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. According to reports about the lawsuit, the victim claimed she had also been by other prominent wealthy men she met in other states, more specifically when Epstein took her to intimate gatherings in New York City. Now, look before that. She filed a lawsuit against Epstein, receiving a settlement from his estate in 2021. You don't just get a settlement and win in a lawsuit like that if there's zero evidence. Now, that evidence could have been abuse at the hands of Epstein, right? Not of the president. But for several days now, several weeks actually, the Justice Department, even on Capitol Hill, Pam Bondi said that there was no credible evidence of any accusations against the president. But there was a credible accusation. The FBI investigated it. What happened with that investigation? We don't know. The tip, the FBI 302, was logged one day before Epstein died in his cell. I encourage you to go read Sollenberger's full report.
Okay, these people are absolutely sick. The fact that they're sitting there covering for PDF files is absolutely egregious. Okay, please pay attention. Pensilola, thank you for becoming a YouTube member, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, let's go to another couple of clips before we get into these witnesses, what they had to say.
Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. Now, Sean Ryan talks about it. Let's check it out.
You think it's survivors?
Did they kill?
You know, you think it's...
Aren't they saying there's bodies buried at the New Mexico ranch?
There were emails about that. And so there's...
I'll bet there's no excavators over there right now looking for anything.
And how do you not investigate it? You know, Blanche as well, they're just men partying.
I wonder who owns that ranch now. Do you know?
I do not know.
I wonder if we could find that out.
Well, I found it out for you, Mr. Sean Ryan. Now, in 2023, that property sold to a LLC named San Rafael Ranch LLC. Now, this is all public information. Now, why would someone buy a property under a LLC? Well, it's to keep it out of the mainstream media, right?
Exactly. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about all these different doctors that are involved, or whose names, let me not say they're involved allegedly, but their names are in the Epstein files.
To Peter Attia and Deepak Chopra, there are other physicians who are in the Epstein files, and some of them appear to be gynecologists. This email is from a Bella Klein to a redacted address. Hey, Bella, is there a gynecologist that we normally use for the girls? I need to make blank an appointment. To which the reply is S. Yale and Romoff. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein that says, organize for blank to see a gyno. The reply is Romoff or clinic blanks once went to which Epstein replies either, and then they reply, in the process of setting her up with Romoff, she is trying to make time in her schedule. Now, I don't know these doctors and I'm not alleging anything, but I think it's important for any physician named in the files to come forward and explain why they're in it.
Okay, I absolutely agree. Now I want to go to a news report about what Fiona Barnett had to say from Australia. And here's the thing. I want you all to pay attention to how the news reporter is so condescending when he speaks about her. You can tell that he doesn't want people to believe the allegations that she has made. He tries to just basically discredit what she's talking about. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Years and over.
But now to another example of sensational crime reporting and some far more remarkable allegations aired in the media 10 days ago.
A woman who says she was the victim of an alleged pedophile ring operating in the 1970s has made explosive claims in Sydney today. Fiona Barnett spoke at a press conference along with members of abuse survivor group SNAP.
I was prostituted to pedophile parties at Parliament House, Canberra. The people involved in this elite pedophile ring included high-ranking politicians, police and judiciary.
And that was just the start of it. Barnett claimed that at least 3 former Australian prime ministers were involved and that the ring is still operating today. And after AAP filed the story, a large number of websites picked it up and reported.
Fiona Barnett also claims she witnessed hundreds of crimes, including murder, rape, abduction and torture.
Lismore's Northern Star and Tweed Daily News also told readers she'd made some even more startling allegations.
Ms. Barnett recounted a story about being shown as a child what happened to traitors who spoke out. She alleged she witnessed a man being tied to 2 tractors which drove in opposite directions, tearing him limb from limb.
Are we beginning to have concerns about her credibility here? Part of Barnett's reason for speaking out was to claim that this prime ministerial...
Now, see, I want you to pay attention to the fact that he says we're supposed to have questions, or basically implying that we should have questions about her credibility. Because of what she said, it sounds almost unfathomable, except for that it isn't unfathomable, because this is exactly what the devils did to some of our ancestors during slavery. Okay, I want you to pay attention. They tried to discredit these witnesses and say, oh, this is so far-fetched, like nobody would do anything so heinous and egregious, but the devils have always done these things. Yes, Muad'Dib, he is very smug, okay? They have fed babies to alligators. They have eaten our ancestors. Everything that it's accusing them of in these Epstein files, they did to our ancestors. So for anyone to think that there's no Black people or Black children involved in this, you need to think again. Okay, now let's continue.
The pedophile ring has been covered up by people in power. As news.com.au reported, she'd told her story many times, but had always been ignored.
Ms. Barnett said she had taken the allegations to multiple health professionals in the 1980s, New South Wales Police in 2008, and approached the Royal Commission in 2013. She said she and other victims of VIP perpetrators were stonewalled by authorities.
Surely a sign there might be no evidence for her remarkable claims. Yet all these media outlets ran with her story, and only news.com.au saw fit to suggest it might not stack up by including this statement from ACT Police, noting,
"The matter was thoroughly investigated by ACT Policing's Operation Attest, and there was no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegations."
Elsewhere, Ms. Barnett's allegations were accepted pretty much uncritically by a host of newspapers and websites, including the Sydney Morning Herald, the Daily Telegraph, the Hobart Mercury, Adelaide's The Advertiser, and a raft of regional papers owned by Fairfax Media or by APN's Australian regional media. Her claims also made headlines in the Daily Mail and in the UK's independent newspaper, not to mention numerous radio and television stations. We reckon they should have been treated with a lot more caution. And a quick search on the internet confirms our doubts. Here is Barnett writing last year about the CIA, pedophiles and Nazis.
The key to understanding organised pedophilia in Australia is the thousands of Nazi war criminals to whom our government knowingly offered asylum in this country.
And here she is again on a site called Neon Nettle, in which she and a fellow victim recalled
witnessing child sacrifices at the hands of the CIA and the Ninth Circle Satanic Child Sacrifice cult, all trained by former Nazis.
That story, and another in September 2014, apparently quoted from Barnett's private testimony to the Child Abuse Royal Commission, in which she claimed that on her 6th birthday, she'd been taken to the rainforest in Kiama in New South Wales and drugged.
When I woke, it was dark and I was lying naked face up, spread eagle on a picnic table with my hands and legs tied. Perpetrators took turns sneaking up on me. They carried rifles and had a pack of starving Doberman dogs. I was told a group of naked children huddled nearby were my responsibility. I was to run and hide them. Every child I failed to hide would be killed and fed to the dogs.
On that occasion, according to Barnett, several young children were shot, but their deaths went undetected. So, should the media have given prominence to her claims about pedophile prime ministers? We think not. Should they also have given credence to claims of a high-level cover-up? Again, the answer is no. And we think that basic checks would have led almost any media organisation to the same conclusion. Naturally, Fiona Barnett begs to differ. She insists the child hunting story is true and that police are also involved in the cover-up. And she told Media Watch,
I have been reporting the crimes committed by VIP pedophiles, including a New South Wales Police Commissioner, for many years. Not surprisingly, New South Wales Police have demonstrated a reluctance to investigate my allegations. I therefore appealed to the Fourth Estate, as victims do when all other avenues of justice fail them.
we understand that at least 2 journalists have investigated Ms. Barnett's allegations and decided not to publish them. And when we asked her to back up some of her claims, she was unwilling or unable to do so.
Now, he said she was unwilling or unable to do so. Well, she likely was unable to do so because all she has is word of mouth, what she witnessed. That's what most of the witnesses have, because they have so many people in the organization and in these cults doing these things and carrying out these practices that they absolutely cover up everything. Okay. And they have people in positions of power in the government, in the law enforcement, the CIA, the FBI. So how is she supposed to have any proof? You see, the devils are very smart at what they do. But before I go to the witnesses, I want you all to pay attention, because what she described was hunting parties. Remember, I told you all that the movie Surviving the Game with Ice-T was more like a documentary. Hunting parties. Okay, they would take these children out into the woods or the forest, according to Fiona Barnett, and they would hunt them. They would have a pack of dogs and they would have guns. And like she said, she was told that she was supposed to be responsible to hide them. And if the ones that she didn't hide would be killed and fed to the dogs. She was only 6 years old. Okay, so how many people do you think she was able to successfully hide? Pensilola says, sinister diabolical demons, hashtag save the children. Exactly, beloved. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, before we go into the witness testimony, and I do believe that one of the witnesses also describes the hunting parties. But before we get into that, let's talk about a company by the name of Frida Baby. Okay? Frida Baby. And I want you to pay attention to how these devils have infiltrated companies, churches, schools, daycares. Just please pay attention. Now, this popular baby brand is accused of disgusting and sexual marketing tactics, okay, after backlash, okay, and this is absolutely appalling. So popular baby care brand Frida Baby is currently under fire after old ads and packaging resurfaced on social media. Perturbed parents are claiming that the company crossed a line with sexual tones on their products designed for infants, and some are even calling for a boycott. They say sexual jokes to market baby products is actually sick and twisted. Okay, this is absolutely appalling and disgusting. That's what one person wrote on X. One screenshot in the post features Frida's 3-in-1 True Temp thermometer that has an illustration of the device alongside a baby's bare bottom on the box. Frida's caption reads, "This is the closest your husband's going to get to a threesome." Do you all hear this? Do you all hear this? Hold on, let me see if I can find that to show it to you. Hold on, beloveds. These people are sick. Now, this is a company for things from the baby. Here it is right here. Nasty freaks. Yeah, definitely. Hold on. Definitely being graphic. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you several of the ads that they have. That is just absolutely egregious. These people are sick in the head. See that? Okay. Threesome. When your toddler invades the bed and takes up 70% of the available space. And then on another ad, it said, this is the only way your husband's going to get a threesome. I want y'all to pay attention to the disgusting. And look at this one. How about a quickie? This is on a baby product. Okay, how about a quickie? Do y'all see this? Here's another one. Okay, they got the baby with the legs in the air. Freaks. This one says, I'm a powerful sucker. Now, what's that supposed to mean? Okay, I'm a powerful sucker. I get turned on easily. Y'all see this? This is for products for babies. For babies. Absolutely egregious. Now they say another showed the brand's 3-in-1 ear, forehead, and touchless thermometer with the phrase, how about a quickie? Okay, and then they say the third image showed instructions for a brand's humidifier, which was titled, I get turned on easily. And a fourth photo showed a box that said, I'm a power sucker. Okay, the post went viral with 4.1 million views at the time of the reporting, and other parents started to bring back old examples of the brand's language that they found inappropriate. One person posted a grainy and blurry screenshot of an apparent social media post that is no longer on the brand's page from April of 2020 that actually shows a baby with nasal discharge and a caption that reads, what happens when you pull out too early? Okay, I want you all to pay attention. What happens when you pull out too early? And look at this. See that on the baby's head? Now, what you think that's supposed to be? That's body fluids, nasty freaks. Now, I have the picture with the baby's face covered. But if you see the baby's whole face, you'd see more of that on the baby's face. Okay, and they said this, and the caption said, this is what happens when you pull out too early. Do y'all hear this? Do you all hear this? This is disgusting. Okay, absolutely disgusting. So anyway, one person, hold on, 2020 with a nasal discharge. Okay, I read that one. Lila Rose, president and founder of the anti-abortion nonprofit Live Action, responded to the post writing, unbelievably sick at Frida Baby, Essie actualizing babies, boycott. Now, users on the Reddit forum, okay, or new parents are also calling for a brand boycott. Aside from their innuendos written on the side of their packaging, these types of statements are disturbing and the company needs to be banished. That's what one person said. I hope you will do your part in boycotting this company and reporting them all to all social media platforms. What is wrong with the world? Have we really gotten to the point where we will post and promote anything for money? So that's what someone else said. Now, seeing what Frida Company is pushing now is honestly disappointing. As moms, we deserve better than companies constantly trying to push boundaries just to get attention for sales. Some things just don't need to be normalized or marketed. This is completely inappropriate. Yeah, it is. Okay, it absolutely is. Oh, so darn disgusted. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to let you all know about that. We need to boycott these companies. Anybody who's purchasing things from them needs to stop. Okay, needs to stop immediately because this is all done in very poor taste. Okay, so now let's go to what a witness had to say about all of this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. I'm going to share my screen.
Some of the rituals, it's called SRA. I don't want to say the actual words. Involved taking me out to different parties. Some were in very beautiful mansions, so they would be kind of black tie balls. If you ever saw Eyes Wide Shut, that kind of thing, except what they didn't show in the movie is the children that were brought in as party favors. Sometimes they would be on grounds at these different beautiful mansions where there were woods, and they were hunting parties. So we would be dressed up in certain costumes or naked or something and sent to hide and then be hunted. There would always be a child or maybe more than one unalived at the end of this. And actually, these people, I have seen cooked babies brought out on platters. They do eat human flesh. They do drink human blood.
I still can't believe there are people out there that are talking about just get over it. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? I think America needs to move on from the Epstein files. You're out your goddamn mind. We ain't dropping shit. We're gonna talk about it every fucking day until someone is brought to justice.
Did y'all hear that? She said she witnessed cooked babies. Absolutely so egregious. Absolutely egregious. Now, here's a lady talking about the farm. The farm. Now, if you remember, Sasha Riley talked about a farm where the things happened to him. Also, he claims Trump was there.
While I was out on the railing, walking around the yard, looking for her, searching for her, I also looked in the vehicle and noticed there was 20 plus flies flying around in there. You could distinctly smell cow manure in the back of her vehicle. You could tell it was like her car had sat in a field for days.
I do believe it is possible that Echo learned something, saw something, heard something, met someone that she was not supposed to, and that it absolutely could have put her in harm's way.
I've heard the rumors about the farm. There's no running electricity. There's no running water. There's no cell phones. And if you aren't there all the time, you don't even get to know the address. You're blindfolded before you get there. And it's like a drug plantation, is what I've called it, where they're cooking a lot of drugs. Going into the shed and looking at the wall, there's something that says the farm in all capital letters with the phone number written on it. The fact that the words were the farm there put my heart in my stomach. And it brings these questions around again. What is the farm? Where is the farm? And who is on the farm?
Did she find out information about this drug ring or people that were involved that she wasn't supposed to know, so she had to be silenced?
Okay, so they were basically talking about this girl who had gone missing, and they believe that she was at that farm. Now I'm going to go to a human trafficking expert. Let me tell you all something. How many of you, once in the chat, how many of you have seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut? How many of you have seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut? Pensiola says, we can't fathom the mind of these demons. Absolutely, beloved. We sure can't. Okay, because we're not that depraved and inhumane. But this is what devils have always done historically. Okay? Historically. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so some of you are saying yes. Okay, so I watched it again last night. And so here's the thing. In the movie Eyes Wide Shut, did anybody catch on to why they knew Tom Cruise didn't belong there? Remember, Tom Cruise came there and he got the password from the musician who was playing the piano there. I think they knew right away that he was an outsider because he gave that password for Fidelio, which is an Italian symphony, right? And the guy was playing the music, so I think that was his password, but not the password for everybody. And so when Tom Cruise gave that password, I think they knew, oh, you got this from the musician. And remember when he went to the hotel where the musician had been staying while he was in town, the front desk person told him that he saw two guys taking the man out of there, and the man had a bruise on his cheek, and he looked very scared. And then he tried to pass the clerk at the front desk an envelope, but the two guys saw it and they stopped it. They intervened, and then they told the front desk person that any mail coming from him or coming for him will be picked up by only someone who's authorized. Then, if you remember, the place where he went to purchase his costume from, okay, the night that he went to that party at that mansion, the guy had a daughter there who was clearly underage, and there were two Asian men in the room with her about to do some things. And the father caught them and then yelled at them and made them leave. Or he basically didn't make them leave, but he locked them in the room and said he was calling the police. But then the next day, when Tom Cruise comes back, his character, Dr. Hartford, when he comes back to return his costume, he sees the daughter come out of the room with those two men, and they speak to the father and just pleasantly leave. And he has this look on his face and he's like, wait a minute, last night you were going to call the police. And then the guy says, yeah, things change. And then he tells Tom Cruise, come back if you ever need anything, no matter what it is. And then he basically is referring to the daughter. So that's when you realize that he's trafficking her. Okay, now I don't know if he was against it at first, and that's why he was talking about calling the police, or if that was just a ruse that he put on because Tom Cruise was there. But nonetheless, he definitely was trafficking his daughter. And those women at the party were trafficked as well. That's why the one that saved him, okay, that's why she turned up dead. Okay, so I find that a lot of the things shown in that movie are very reminiscent of some of the things that we've heard or read in the Epstein files. And also, I find it interesting that Stanley Kubrick, who wrote that movie or produced it and directed it, died shortly after it was finished. And in fact, it is alleged that they actually finished the final edit. And I wonder what they took out of there that he had in there. I think that man was killed. And I know he was like 70, maybe 2 or something. But at the end of the day, because of the timing, I think he was killed. Just like I told you all, the Italian director who did the movie 120 Days of Sodom also turned up dead under mysterious circumstances. So when people try to expose these cults, okay, these covens of witches and all of the above, these satanic cults, they usually turn up dead. Okay, now let's go to what this human trafficking expert had to say. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you, beloveds. Please like and share. Thank you.
Seeing their communications, their interactions, we're seeing how deep these relationships were. When some of these people publicly, they said one thing, they distanced themselves from Epstein. Now we're seeing a different story come to light here. And it really feels like for a lot of people that the elite who are mentioned in this believe that they are operating on a different playing field than the rest of the world, really. And you mentioned that that hearing that Attorney General Pam Bondi was in. She was testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee earlier this week. It was very fiery when the Epstein files were brought up. And during one moment, Congressman Jamie Raskin, he said to Bondi, "You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice." He went on to say this: "You redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress." Do you agree with him there? Do you think you would go as far to say that the DOJ is running a cover-up when it comes to these Epstein documents?
Yeah, I mean, this is a completely unique circumstance. I mean, this is one trial and one case in which Congress passed a law to say we want transparency behind this particular file. And while the Department of Justice or law enforcement may have normal methods of what becomes public and what doesn't, this is completely different. There has been such a public outcry. In fact, Trump ran and said that he would release the Epstein files. And now it looks like the whole purpose of getting there was to actually shield him. And so when Congressman Raskin says that Congress had said in this particular case, you must release the entire file and by a date certain, that is completely unique. The entire nation, the entire public, both Republican and Democrat, said that this one case needs to be put out there for the purpose of the transparency of healing, not only what has happened to the victims, but how Epstein represents the whole case, represents the entire nation trying to move towards protecting children. And so I've seen my Republican colleagues often jump up and down about what they think are in books and libraries or school activities claiming to protect children. But now that it looks like it's Trump and his inner circle that is what's being named in these files, they are going beyond to try to continue to shield it. And that goes straight to the Attorney General. It's appalling. The Attorney General and the Department of Justice is supposed to represent the United States and each and every citizen, not the elected president. The job is to serve us, not him.
What we're learning from the materials that have been released is that
Okay, so, they say Epstein had relationships around the world. And I want you all to pay attention because it also talks in there about him wanting to meet with Muammar Gaddafi. Okay? He was making ties to all of these big time people. And the reason, in my opinion, is because he was trying to blackmail them. Okay, because he was trying to blackmail them. Now let's go to this video that this guy did about the bloodlines of these politicians.
Let me tell you in 60 seconds how deep this shit go real quick. The whole politician world is bloodlines. It's bloodlines passed down to bloodlines. Motherfuckers die and they pass it down to the motherfuckers that still live. That's it. They was taught from the beginning to keep this shit under control. This is the biggest fucking business ever created in mankind. To have a whole country in control, these motherfuckers laughing at us. They're really working and paying us taxes out there, check. Every check. They're really paying insurance every fucking month on a car, and they ain't never had an accident. These dumb motherfuckers is really paying for a sticker every year to put on the plate with the same numbers that's registered in the system that they still can look up without that new sticker and know who the fuck you are when they run that plate. Let me tell you in 60 seconds how deep this shit go real quick.
Okay, so that all being said, no lies detected as far as I'm concerned. Now let's go to this video. Let's go to this video of Mel Gibson. Hold on, beloveds. Let's go to this video clip of Mel Gibson. I think this is a video I'm looking for. Hold on. Let's see here.
His interview of Mel Gibson from the 1980s has many people wondering if he has always been trying to tell us the truth. And I can tell you, they probably wouldn't let this air on TV today. Back then, there was a few less corporations that owned all the media. Now it's vastly consolidated. Check this out.
Questions about this foreign debt and where this foreign debt's coming from. You get hold of this foreign debt to get us out of trouble. And then they have something called foreign aid, which is, it'd be okay if it was feeding starving children or something, but it's not. They're giving many millions to countries like Red China, North Vietnam, South Korea to develop steel industries. And they give this money to them interest-free. But you know who has to pay the interest on that money? The Australian taxpayer has to pay the interest on that money. And to add insult to injury, they are creating industries in competition with our own steel industry. Now, they're telling us from both sides to be more productive, stick together, get in front, be more productive, get ahead again. And at the same time, they're slipping a quid overseas to make sure that they successfully stifle our own industries. You're obviously hot under the collar. I am damn hot under the collar. And I care about this nation.
You know, the thing about foreign aid is that when did we get to vote? Like, for example, in our countries, we have homeless people, we have starving people, we have people who don't have a house, we have all these problems. When did we get to vote to be the charity to the world? I can imagine someone who's struggling in their own country, hearing that we're sending $1 bajillion to some other country. It's like, buddy, your own citizens need freaking help here. And this isn't even to discuss the potential, backhanded dealings of where some of this money might go.
Okay, absolutely nefarious. Now, let's go to this next clip from 1998 with Mel Gibson.
With Mel Gibson from 1998. And people called him crazy. In fact, they portrayed him as a raving lunatic. He was canceled before canceling became a thing. No studio wanted to work with him. So what do you think he meant by this?
When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, weird town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go to the house on the hill, and it's like that.
What's he mean?
And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track.
The question is, what did he mean by that? Crazy town, weird stuff going on, but that was Hollywood. Now, many people have came out and said, Hollywood is wholly weird. I think what's weird is that listen to this. Hollywood is in reference to the holly tree. Many people think. The holly tree was used in ancient Rome that was believed to have magical powers. And they used the branches from a holly tree to make wands. Okay, I'm talking Harry Potter. So the holly tree is considered magical. And then they call Hollywood, Hollywood. Despite there being no holly trees, to my understanding, I don't think there's many holly trees in Hollywood. But you could grow anything in California because you guys got that sunshine. But anyways, is Hollywood being used for magical purposes today?
It's being used for witchcraft and satanic practices, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, that whole thing that he was saying about the Hollywood coming from the holly tree and how Hollywood got its name, yeah, I've told you all that. It started back in the day with the Celtic Druids. They would take the wood from the holly tree and fashion it into wands to perform their nefarious black magic. Okay, that's what they would do. Now, here's the thing. Hold on, let me see something. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this video really quickly where Mel Gibson talks about an encounter with Christopher Walken. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Yeah. Terrified. And you'll know within 15 minutes
if this is a person you want to work with.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken, the first time we ever did a casting session in America.
Yeah.
Terrified. Me too. I mean, I came to meet the guy. They said, he's flying in from God knows where.
Yeah, but he didn't need a plane, right?
It's like, he's doing all the...
No, he came to see me on a rooftop in New York. I said, hey, can I talk to you? And he said, sure. And he floated in sideways through a crowd of people. He was wearing black. And it was like one of those old vampire movies where they don't walk, but they glide. And he was a dancer, so he's very, graceful.
Yeah.
And he moved sideways and he just sat down in the chair next to me. And it kind of frightened me. And he's a very smart guy. And we started talking and I didn't, say much of anything about reading the script, nothing. I just started talking about the Middle Ages and he began to talk tortures. and we swapped tortures because I'd read this book on torture, and I tried to recall some of the most heinous things I'd ever read in this book, and he was like, oh, and he'd try and top it, and it got, and my sister was there, and he left because he couldn't stand it anymore. The air had turned cold, and then he left, and I wanted to leave, and because I knew that I didn't want to work with it, and he was getting scary. And then I turned around, and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point, and I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it. So there was a huge illuminated 666 in red. And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist, you know? But
Okay, did y'all hear that? He thought he was the Antichrist. For those of you who don't know who Christopher Walken is, hold on. And now as I'm thinking about it, I do believe that Christopher Walken was the man who was on that boat with Robert Wagner when his wife supposedly fell off the boat. They always thought that was very suspicious, okay, that she fell off that boat. Hold on. This is Christopher Walken right here.
red in this cold, that cold, and then he left, and I wanted to leave, and because I knew that I didn't want to work with it, and he was getting scary, and then I turned around, and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point, and I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it. So there was a huge illuminated 666 in red. And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist, you know? But
That's him. Okay, that was him right there. Christopher Walken. Now, with that all being said, we're almost done, but let's talk about this really quick because Christopher Walken, as I told you all, he is the actor who was on that yacht. The yacht was called Splendor. He was on there with Robert Wagner and his wife, actress Natalie Wood, when she died under very mysterious circumstances, November the 29th of 1981, off of Catalina Island. The three, along with Captain Dennis Davern, had spent the evening drinking and dining before the incident, which was initially ruled an accidental drowning. Now, the argument, they say reports indicate a tense atmosphere with witnesses and the captain alleging an argument took place between Wagner and Walken, and later between the Wagners over Woods' career and relationship with Walken. I wonder if that's James Woods. Oh, Natalie Woods. Okay, yeah, that's her last name, the wife. Now, following the argument, Wood went to her cabin. She was later found missing with the yacht's dinghy also gone. Now, while officially ruled an accident in 1981, the investigation was reopened in 2011, okay, with People.com reporting that new witnesses suggested that a fight occurred. Now, Walken has barely spoken about the incident, but told The Independent back in 1986 that he did not know what happened. In 2022, People.com notes that Wagner was cleared of direct involvement by the sheriff's department. Walken was a Brainstorm co-star of Wood at the time, and the incident remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. I absolutely think that Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken had something to do with it. That's what my spirit told me when I read the story, read about this incident a couple of decades ago. Okay, absolutely think they had something to do with it and that they covered it all up. Now, with that all being said, I told you that they're hiding in the files they don't want to release. They're basically hiding the fact that there's Black children that were involved and that were, quite frankly, their preferred delicacy. And also the fact that these people are not human, but they are in fact Nephilim. Okay, Nephilim is spoken about in the book of Enoch. Okay, so let's talk about it. And also, for those who don't know, the book of Enoch is one of the books that was supposedly removed from the Bible. Okay. So they talk about them in chapters 6 through 16. The Nephilim are described as giant offspring born of the union of the Watchers, which is a group of fallen angels, and human women. Okay, when these giants, which are fallen angels, procreated with human women, that's how they got the Nephilim, which were giant offspring. Okay, these beings were portrayed as enormous, violent, and destructive, far larger and more powerful than ordinary humans. Now, according to the book of Enoch, they say around 200 angels, led by figures like Simjaza and Azazel, descended to earth. They took human wives, breaking divine law. They taught humans the forbidden knowledge, including warfare and weapon making, sorcery and enchantments, cosmetics and seduction techniques. Now, this knowledge is portrayed as corrupting humanity, accelerating moral collapse. They say the Nephilim devoured vast resources, causing famine, turned on humans when the food ran out, engaged in violence, bloodshed, and cannibalism, brought chaos to the earth. Their actions are a major reason God decided to intervene. Now, so in response, God ordered the great flood to wipe out the Nephilim and to cleanse the earth. That's when he told Noah to build the ark. The Watchers are bound and imprisoned under the final judgment. The Nephilim's physical bodies were destroyed. Okay, one of Enoch's most influential ideas is what happens after the Nephilim die. You see, their souls do not ascend to heaven. They become evil spirits, or demons, in fact. They roam the earth, afflict humanity, causing disease, temptation, and chaos. Okay, this concept shaped pretty much Jewish demonology and influenced early Christian thought. Okay, now why is this important? Well, because the book of Enoch frames the Nephilim as a hybrid violation of divine order. They were not supposed to be here. Okay, what they did is an abomination unto the Most High. Okay, they are the origin of demonic forces. All right, and they were a central reason for the flood. Okay, so that all being said, that's who these devils are. Okay, that's who these people are, beloveds. They are not humans. This is why they drink blood and eat the flesh of human beings. Okay, and some of these serial killers, I do believe, are also Nephilim. Like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, okay, David Nielsen, because they were cannibals. Albert Hamilton Fish. And let's not forget that Albert Hamilton Fish, I'm going to read you all the letter from Albert Hamilton Fish, just so you get an idea of the cannibalism. Now, I've read this before, but some of you may not have been here. He was a notorious serial killer, the most prolific serial killer in the United States, in my opinion. Now, he wrote this letter to the parents of a 10-year-old girl that he actually abducted. Okay, so here we go. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. It says, Dear Mr. or Dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed for San Francisco for Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and two others, went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was famine in China. Meat of any kind was from $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering that the very poor, that children under 12 were sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the streets. You could go into any shop and ask for steak chops or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out and what you wanted cut from it. A boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body and sold as veal cutlet, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, he stole two boys, one 7 and one 11, took them to his home, stripped them naked, and tied them in a closet, then burned everything they owned. Several times every day and night, he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. Now, I want you all to pay attention because this is exactly what was going on with the Epstein files. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass and, of course, the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except his head, bones, and guts. Okay, I want you to pay attention to how the little boy and the girl, the Hampstead twins, said that they cut off the baby's heads. Okay? And so they said the only parts they didn't eat were the head, bones, and guts. Now, with the babies, they cut open the intestines and ate the milk that had collected in there from the mother's breast. Just disgusting. He says he was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled, broiled, fried, and stewed. And isn't that what the Hampstead twins said, the little boy? He said sometimes they boil them, sometimes they broil them. The little boy was next, went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, near Right Side. He told me so often how good human flesh was that I decided in my mind to taste it. And on Sunday, June the 3rd of 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street, brought you pot cheese and strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. On the pretense of taking her to a party, you said yes, she could go. I took her to the empty house in Westchester, and I had already picked it out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped off my clothes. I knew if I did not, I would get her blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run down the stairs. I grabbed her, and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her into small pieces so I could take her meat to my rooms, cook it, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not F her, though. I could have had I wished. She died a virgin. Did y'all hear that? Absolutely despicable. Absolutely despicable. And this is a person, okay, this is a person who was cannibalizing children. Hundreds of them. Hundreds of them. And he'd been doing this for years and getting away with it. He only got caught when he took Grace Budd and didn't bring her back home. Because usually he would just see children outside playing by themselves or in a, like maybe one or two children, and then he would just abduct them. But this time he actually had put an ad in the paper to get an 18-year-old boy to help him do some work. That was the ruse, but he was really going to kill the boy and eat him. But what happened is when he went to Grace Budd's home and saw her brother Edward Budd, who had responded to the ad, he saw that he couldn't overpower him, that this was a strong 18-year-old and he wouldn't be able to overpower him. So then he set his eyes on Grace Budd and lied and said that there was a party that his 5-year-old niece was having for her birthday and asked if she could go. And he never brought her back. And then 6 years later, sent that nefarious letter to the parents revealing exactly what had happened to her. Okay? So crazy. Now, with that all being said, I'm out of here. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I also want to tell you all this quickly before I go. The AOC, hold on, let me see if I have that video. AOC basically said that these people, ICE, they're being paid from your tax dollars and from your money that the government is charging for your health care. Okay, think about that. The money that they're charging for health care is being given to fund ICE. This is what AOC actually alleges. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay. Oh, hold on, beloveds. Hold on. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. There was one other person that I wanted to tell you all about. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I did tell you all about him. Okay. Trump's pick for the ambassador, the former ambassador to Mexico. That's him right there in the blue suit with a pinkish looking tie. Okay, I thought I forgot to speak on him. Okay, so I did. With that all been said, listen, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Hold on. Are you kidding me? It is always some BS, honey. Why did my thing just disappear? Hold on. My thing just disappeared. So now I can't play the song before closing out unless I refresh the screen. Okay. So anyway, we're not going to get a song today, beloved. I'm just going to go ahead and close out. Love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, peace.